Hey guys, Magnus Robert here, bringing you a long anticipated video. I have been doing this for a while, but then I've obviously taken breaks on it and stuff. But finally I've done my character collection, so this is part 2. Part 1 was actually done by Spring King. This is kind of my follow-up to it, if you will. So Spring King is of course a loyal subscriber of mine. He did one, I think, over a year ago now, and I finally got around to doing mine. Mine is slightly different to his, a few different kind of, I've kind of broadened a few. So for example, business owners. There's so many goddamn business owners, I'd rather them just be more specific with certain business owners, so I've done stuff like that. Now, there were a few characters in here that I think, and we'll just go to my formula. So the way I've kind of structured this is I've gone from family first. So if they're basically, my rule with this is if there is 2 or more family members, well, if there's 3 or more family members, then they definitely get a category. If there is 2 if there's only 2 family members in the game currently, then they still get one, but only if there is the potential of adding another family member. So for example, Jerry McElberry with Sherry and Terry, I guess that's already technically 3, but okay, I'll do another example. Martin Prince with Martha Prince. They're obviously Martin's father can still be added in the game. Therefore, I've made a category for the Prince family because there's a potential character that can be added. And we've got like categories with 1 character and 2 characters in them anyway already in the game, so I don't think it's a big deal. I just think family should trump everything else. I think family should be the main category that we focus on, and then everything else. So the next one is of course profession. This can be loose and also be very specific. So for example, business owner, celebrity, they're very loose terms, but they kind of fall into profession. Age group, so oldies, kids, that kind of thing. Also profession does fall into like school children, so you will see that as well. I've separated kids from elementary. And then the descriptive key, so for example like monsters or oddballs or things like this, so like a descriptive key. I will also throw in between age group and descriptive key is I guess hobbies, so barflies, that kind of thing. I've also thrown criminals into profession because they technically it is to them, so yeah. And then finally update. So but I will say there is absolutely no update categories. I've completely got rid of them. I honestly don't like update categories. I think they kind of defeat the purpose of character collections. I have a massive issue with it because if you're going to do update collections, that's fine, but at least be consistent with it. You can't if we get Maggie Simpson in the Christmas update, you can't throw Maggie Simpson in the Simpsons Family, because then you would have to throw all the others into the categories that they belong to. So that's my biggest issue with the update categories, is it's not consistent. It kind of ruins consistency. And also I want to mention there is absolutely no costumes. I have completely got rid of costumes, and I will be doing a follow-up video kind of talking about what I think they should do for costumes. I think they should do a completely separate character collection for costumes. A costume collection, if you will, and I will probably do a follow-up video sometime next month or the month after, where I will go through my kind of costume collection tool that I think they should add instead. So yeah, here is my formula. So let's go through all of them. That's my little introduction. This video is going to be long as hell, and I do apologise, but I do have to go through all the different things and kind of talk about my decisions to why I've put them in certain particular groups. So starting off with the Simpsons Family. Now, of course, I'm sure everyone will agree with these entries up until Grandpa. Now, the others, I understand that you could make an argument. So I think Mona, I think that's fair. She married, like Marge and Mona married into the Simpsons family. They took the Simpsons name, so I therefore think it makes sense for them to be included in the Simpsons family. Same with, I think this is Amber, or is this, I forget, I get them mixed up. So there's Amber and there's, I actually don't know the other's name, but the Vegas wife anyway, Homer's Vegas wife. She married and took the Simpsons name, technically, so I just think it makes sense for her to be added in the Simpsons family. They could make a separate category just called Vegas Wives and have her and the other one, but I don't know, I think it'd be kind of funny if they were included in the Simpsons family, so that's my kind of thinking behind that. And then finally, Abby and Herb. These ones actually were quite a particular, like, I actually originally didn't have them in the Simpsons family category, mainly because they're technically not Simpsons. Neither of them took the Simpsons name as far as we know, but I think just for clarity's sake, they are Homer's siblings. I think it makes sense just to chuck them in the Simpsons Family category. So, but I wouldn't be too annoyed if they weren't in the Simpsons Family. I think I would prefer if they were in the Simpsons Family, but it's just my opinion. Then we have the Bouvier Family, so Jacqueline, Patty Selma, Ling, who's not in the Bouvier Family category at the minute, which is a bit weird. And also Jub Jub, although yes, Jub Jub is an animal. I think apart from the Simpsons pets, all pets should be thrown into the families they belong to, because I would consider them family members. The only reason why I haven't thrown the Simpsons pets in the Simpsons Family is because there's too darn many of them, and I think it'd be better if we kind of become more specific. So then we have the Flanders family, of course, Flanders, Rod Todd, Edna. I'm chucking her in there. She married into the Flanders family. She was Flanders' wife, so I think it makes sense for her to go in there. She doesn't have any other family category to go into, so I think it makes sense for her to go here. Obviously, Ned's parents. We have Lord Thistlewick, Ted Flanders, who is his cousin, I believe. And then we have, I forget her name, Ginger Flanders? Is it Ginger Flanders? I think her, or is, whatever. But Ned's Vegas wife. Again, same reasoning for the other one. Then we have the Van Houten family. Milhouse is getting thrown into this because Milhouse actually isn't in the Van Houten family category at the minute, which is really odd. And then obviously Kirk Luan, Norbert Van Houten, and Nana Sophie Mussolini. The Nahasapeemapetilon family. I don't want them to be called Apu family, like Milhouse's family. I want them to be the surname. So we've got Nahasapeemapetilon family. And that has Apu, Manjula, Sanjay, and Jay. That's his name, or Jashmed, as he's called. Then we have the Wiggum family. We got Chief Wiggum, Ralph, and Sarah. This currently isn't in the game, but I want them to add one because there's 3 characters. They fit perfectly in here. Szyslak family. We already have a Szyslak family category, which I think it's just called the Szyslaks, but we don't have Mo in it, which is really odd. So again, add Mo into it, and then obviously his family members. I think his father and his sister and his brother, right? Then we have the Hibbert family, of course. This should be Hibbert family, not Hibbert's family. We have Dr. Hibbert, Patrice Hibbert, Chester Debray, and I think, although, he's not technically a part of the Hibbert family. I mean, it's just, he's Patrice's brother, so it makes sense. Also, Bleeding Gums Murphy. Now, I know someone, I think, left a comment a while ago when I did the part 1 that Spring King did, and so I forget who it was, but someone said that he shouldn't be a part of the family because it's not as well known, but he is a part of the family, and they could always mention that in a future questline. I'm pretty sure they've mentioned it, actually, in the questline, so I know it's not as well known, but he is Hibbert's brother, so it makes sense that he goes in there, and obviously Hibbert's father. Especially now we've got Hibbert's father in the game, like, that's Bleeding Gums Murphy's dad, so we've got Bleeding Gums Murphy's dad and Bleeding Gums Murphy's brother. I just think it makes sense to add him in the Hibbert family. Then we have Skinner family. Now, this one I could feel like some people may disagree with. Now, we've obviously got Seymour Skinner, Agnes Skinner, and we've got the Principal and the Pauper Skinner, the original Skinner as he's called. Now, this episode was made non-canon, so I can understand why people would be against this category. But I will say, yeah, the episode's non-canon, but it's not perceived as non-canon. Like it's not like a Treehouse of Horror episode where it's obviously non-canon, or a future episode where it's obviously up in the air. It's presented as a normal episode, so for that reason, I think I want him to be in the Skinner family, if that makes sense. Also, Skinner's father has been seen in an episode, so there was always the chance that we could get Skinner's father as well. So that's the main reason why I've done the Skinner family one. If not, he could just go in the civil servants category, that's fine. But I would either want him in the Skinner family or the civil servants category. I don't think it makes sense for him to be in international travellers, whatever it is. Or interdimensional travellers. Moving on, we have the Burns family. Again, probably another one that some people might find a little controversial. Not controversial, but, like, disagree with. We got Mr. Burns and his cousin Lila, who's also his ex-fiancée. So it's Mr. Burns' cousin plus ex-fiancée, so it makes sense to go in the Burns family. Main reason why I've done this is there's a great potential for Burns' family category. We've got Larry Burns, Mr. Burns' parents could both be added, so there's definitely characters to be added in there, plus there's already 2, so I think it makes sense to separate them into their own category. Moving on, we have the Quimby family. Same logic, obviously. Mayor Quimby, Freddie, his wife, and his mother. Then we have the Spuckler Family. So this one isn't actually a category at the minute, which I find really weird. So we have the Spuckler Brood category, and then Brandine and Cletus and Ma and Diabetes are in the Oddball category, and Mary, is that her name? Mary Spuckler? She's in the County Fair, obviously her update. So I think they should make a Spuckler family, which will have Cletus, Brandine, the kids, Ma, and Diabetes. The Kruskovsky family, can barely say that. So obviously Krusty, his wife, his ex-wife, Princess Penelope, Rabbi Krustyskoffy, who is obviously Krusty's father, and then Sophie Krustyskoffy, who is Krusty's daughter. So yeah, same logic with the whole family thing. Lovejoy family, these are in Churchy Joes at the minute. I just don't think they should be. They should be in their own Lovejoy category with these three. There's also obviously others. I think what's the name? Helen has a transgender cousin or something that could be added as well. So also the sheepdog could be added there. Albertson family. Yeah, so we got a comic book guy, and obviously what's the name? Damn it. I forgot her name, but his wife anyway, the Japanese girl. They adopted a son called Prius Albertson, so they could add him. Plus, there's obviously her parents that could be added as well. Plus, there's comic book gay, so there's which is his gay cousin. So there's plenty of characters they could add in for sure to this category. I just think it makes sense to separate them. Prince family, I've already talked about this, but of course there's Martin Prince's father, plus I think he's got a few pets they could add as well. Jailbird family, Gloria is Snake's ex-wife, so I think it makes sense to add her in there. Also obviously a Snake and Snake's son. Mutz family, I think, I missed out the N, but this is not Mutz family. Obviously Nelson, his mother, and then this will also have Eddie Muntz, who is Nelson's father. Again, just trying to complete them. The MacDougal family, so Willie, Gravedigger Billy, who is Willie's cousin, and then I also think they could add Willie's parents, who were seen in the episode where they get the Loch Ness Monster. So there's potential for extra characters to be added in this category, so again, that's my reasoning behind it. The Mackleberry family, Sherry, Terry, and Jerry. Obviously, Barry Mackleberry can also be added. The Frink family, so you've got Professor Frink, his father, and although, yes, he's technically a Halloween character here, it has been shown that he is a canon character, like his father did exist, although, obviously, that skit was done for Halloween. I think it makes sense. It's loose, but I think they could throw him in there as his father. And then also his robot dog, I think it makes sense. I don't think it makes sense that the Ladybot goes in his family, because that's a bit different. Like, that's a one-episode thing, but I don't know. I think it makes sense that his robot dog he has his robot dog around a lot. I don't know. Brockman family. Again, Brockman's wife, Stephanie Brockman, could be added. I think it's Stephanie. Or is that Wolfcastle's wife? I always get Wolfcastle's wife and Brockman's wife mixed up, because they're just very generic. But yeah, they can add his wife and obviously Stephanie Brockman, so this is the category. Fat Tony's family, which should be the DiMacchio family. Oops. DiMacchio family. So obviously Fat Tony, Michael DiMacchio, and Fit Fat Tony. And of course, there's even more characters they could add, such as all of his weird his nephews, even. All of his nephews they could add. Wolfcastle family, Wolfcastle's wife, I forget what she's called now. But Brunella, I think, maybe? Or no, that's Pommelhorst. Who knows? But yeah, they can add a Wolfcastle's... if they do add Wolfcastle's wife... Oh no, it is Pommelhorst. It is something Pommelhorst, because Wolfcastle's wife is the sister to Brunella Pommelhorst, isn't the gym teacher, I'm pretty sure? Something like that. I think that's right, I don't know. But yeah, they could add the wife to this, and maybe even add the gym teacher, Brunella Pommelhorst. Terwilliger family, of course, this one's already in the game, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is already in the game, so yeah. And then that's the end of the families, and now we go into Simpsons Pets. So, like I said, I think they should make a separate category for Simpsons Pets, so all the pets that have belonged to the Simpsons at some point. There is a few which you could argue, for example, Squawky. Squawky was, like, looked after, but he was never really owned, so there's a few, like, grey areas, if you will. But yeah, here we are. So we got the Chirpy and Bart Jr., Furious D, who could, I guess, go into a sport category, but I think it makes more sense that he goes in the pets category, because he's like a family member. Mojo, obviously the guinea pig, Spider Pig, old Plopper, Santa's Little Helper, Snowball 2, Snowball 1, Stampy, and the Screamer Pillar. I know that it's a giant Screamer Pillar, but the actual Screamer Pillar itself was, you know, a pet, I guess, in some regards. Also, there was no giant Screamer Pillar. This was just, it was only made giant so they could add the Screamer Pillar to the game. So, yeah, I just think it's fine. It can go with the Simpsons Pets. And then we have Simpsons Ancestors. So we got Virgil, Mabel, Abraham the First, Old Tut, and Orville. So any Simpsons who are dead, you know, have died a while, I guess. The only exception would be the Bouvier family. I would add Clancy Bouvier to that, although yes, he's dead in the show. There have been, like, he was seen to be alive at the same time, if that makes sense. So any, like, Simpsons Ancestors, though, I think they should be thrown into their own category, which is right here, so the Simpsons Ancestors. And then we have future Simpsons members, so any kind of kids in the future. So I think this one's technically complete. So we got Gender, Jiff, Skippy, and Zia. I think that's pretty much complete. I'm trying to think if there's any... Oh, I guess Maggie's daughter they could add to this as well. Younger Simpsons, so any younger versions of the Simpsons family. So we got Bart, Baby Homer, Baby Lisa, Baby Marge, Teenage Homer, young Grandpa, and then young Marge. And then we got younger Springfielders, so this will be the same kind of thing, but because obviously, I guess you can make a separate one for Barney eventually. When Barney gets a third version of like an older or younger version of himself, I guess you could, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, younger Springfielders, so it's baby Barney, baby Frink, baby Mo, teenage Smithers, young Archie Ziff, young Barney, and young Burns, I think that's it, or something like that. So yeah, the younger versions of Springfield characters that we have in the game. And then we've got Future Simpsons, again, same logic. So we've got Bart, Mooch Bart, President Lisa, Rockstar Maggie, Retired Homer, and Empty Nest Marge. And then we've got Future Springfielders, so the Doggy Smithers, the Robot Burns, and the Martin of the Opera. So these are going to be the same thing as the past Springfielder, younger Springfielders. So anyone who's... anything that's an older version of themselves, or a future versions of themselves, gets thrown into this. So yeah, and then we move on to professions. So we've done kind of family. I know the Springfielder thing is a bit loose. Obviously, it's not really family, but I kind of threw it in there just so it would make sense. But it's meant to be. I'm trying to go in order, but I just think it would have been a bit of a disconnect if I threw them away. But anyway, now we're getting to professions properly. So we got elementary school workers. So we've of course got pretty much this is the same, but I would put it in one single category. So. Like a scroll wheel, so obviously we got Chalmers, Miss Hoover, Otto, Coach Corrupt, Brunel Palmerhorst, Dewey Largo, Seamus, Wilma, Leopold, Doris, Mr. Bergstrom, Quinn Hooper, I think is it, and Landscaper Willie. So yeah, I'd put it in a scroll wheel. Obviously, it'd go in order of how they were released, I think. Well, that was another thing I had to mention. I think the scroll wheel should go in order of what is released. I just couldn't be bothered looking it up because that would have taken me forever. And then we've got elementary school students. So although this isn't a profession as such, it is kind of a supplement of a profession, I guess. Like if you're a child, you obviously probably are not going to have a profession, although there is an exception to some kids in this game. So yeah, anyone who is been shown to be seen at the elementary school gets thrown in here. So obviously it's Alison Taylor. I should probably put Springfield elementary school students. And it's Alison Taylor, database, report card, Janie, Lewis Clark, Uta, Wendell Borton, Eric, and Nikki. I think it's Nikki. And then Springfield University students. The reason why I changed it from Springfield University nerds to students is so it's more broad. That way we can add the there was like a jock character. They could add him, and then any other characters who go to the university. I'm not sure if there is anymore, but it leaves that potential. So yeah. And then we've got nuclear power plant workers. So Lenny Cole, Frank, Kathy from personnel, who's like she works for the nuclear power plant, so it makes sense. Mindy Simmons, Stuart the Duck, and Zutroy. Civil servants, I've obviously got the cops in there, Louie and Ed and Louie, or is it Lou? Ed and Lou. I've got Mary Bailey, Jed Hoover, Rex Banner, who I've thrown in from. I've taken him out of the 4th of July and put him in here. He's a cop, so it makes sense. Also, I've thrown in LT Smash. He's a Navy recruiter. Navy is part of it's a civil service, so it makes sense that he'd be thrown in there as well. K9 officer, and also the foreign cop, whatever he's called. The kind of, I think he's French, but this other cop anyway. He's a civil servant still, so it makes sense that he's thrown in there, in my opinion. Doctors, obviously you've got Dr. Nick and Marvin Monroe, Dr. Marvin Monroe. This category this used to actually be a category, but obviously after they made the Hibbert family, they took it away. But it did actually used to be a category. It used to have both Dr. Nick and Dr. Hibbert in it. And I think it did make sense to get rid of it at the time, but now we've got Marvin Monroe. I think it makes sense just to have both of these guys. Obviously, there's been a load of different doctors that have appeared in The Simpsons. Not all of them are named, but there definitely is extra characters they can throw into this category. Now, business owners. So this is a little... I'm not a massive fan of the business owners category just because it goes on forever, and I think they definitely could be more specific. So there's actually some characters who, like Disco Stew, appears in Oddballs, but I think it makes more sense that he appears in business owners because he owns his disco. So we got obviously Bella, Disco Stew, forget her name, but I think she's called Sinclair. She's the one who has the Iron Rand tots thing. Jim Hope. I think there's a chance he could be thrown into the kind of secret villains, these villains who were revealed after the fact. But he owns a business, he owns Kids First Industry, so it makes sense he's thrown in there. Larry Kidkill, of course, the zoo owner. Milo owns a comic book store. Roscoe owns his plant, his steel mill. Gastepi, is it? Or Gastepi, or whatever it is. He owns this firework thing. I've taken him out of 4th of July. I don't think there should be a 4th of July category. I'll get onto that in a minute, what I think the replacement should be. But I think he should be thrown in business owners because he owns his firework thing. Julio, I should say, he owns a Photoshop company, so I think it makes sense that he's thrown in here. And then we have Slick, who is a publisher. He owns a publishing company, so it makes sense that he's thrown in there. And then we have restaurant workers. So this is a kind of a subcategory, I guess, in some regards. It'll be another category, obviously, but it's kind of coming off business owners, trying to be more specific. And I originally had it as restaurant owners, but it was literally just Luigi, Akira, and the sea captain. So I put it as restaurant workers, so I can include the French waiter and Becky. So we got those are the characters that are in it. So restaurant workers, people who own or work in a restaurant. And technically Akira, sea captain, and Luigi also work in the restaurant, so it's not like it's wrong. We got alcohol-fueled entrepreneurs. They could come up with a more catchier name. That was just what I came up with. So these are people who own either breweries or they own, they make alcohol or they serve alcohol in some way. So obviously got Howard K. Duff, Tom O'Flanagan, the two French dudes, Uglion and Caesar, and of course their donkey Maurice. These guys make wine, this guy serves beer, this guy makes beer. So I don't know, it just makes sense that they are kind of thrown into their own category. Or maybe they could come up with a catchier name. Busybodies. So these are people that don't directly own businesses but work for businesses, or they've been shown to own multiple businesses. And the reason why I say that is the Wise Guy and Lindsay Nagel both have been shown to have multiple jobs. Also, I think Cookie Kwan has had a few jobs as well. So I just think it makes more sense that these guys are thrown into their own separate category because we don't know what business they really own. For all we know, they just work in those different companies that they have been seen in. So obviously, Cookie Kwan, Lindsay Nagel. We've got Canadian Flanders. He tries to sell weed, so I think it makes kind of sense that he's a business busybody. He's trying to sell something, but I don't know if he owns a business as such. We got Ray Patterson. Again, he works for a company. I know he's like a representative, but he doesn't own the company because I'm pretty sure it's government owned. And then Stacey Lavelle, again, same sort of thing. Fortune tellers. Yeah, bit of a weird one. There is a chance they could add more characters. I know there is another fortune teller in the show that they could add, but for now I've just got these two in there. It was mainly just because I didn't know where to put the fortune teller, so I made a separate category for and threw the tribal chief in there. But yeah, not my strongest category, but I think it's fine if they were to do that. And, I don't know. Maybe it makes sense. Itchy and Scratchy, creators and executives. So obviously we'd have the what's his name, Roger Myers Sr., Chester Chester anyway, and Jeremy and Diane, I think they're called. Yeah, just their own little category there. The Krusty the Clown Show, so we've got Sideshow Mel, Mr. Teeny, Corporal Punishment, Tina Ballerina, and Sideshow Raheem. Legal Eagles, similar one, but I've added the copyright lawyer in there. Also, this copyright lawyer, he's been seen multiple times in the he's kind of a recurring character because he appears in like the crowd of lawyers that Burns always has alongside the blue-haired lawyer. So I think it makes sense to throw him in the Legal Eagles. He's kind of seen quite a bit. Wise Guys, I've thrown anyone who's associated with the Mafia goes in this category, in my opinion. It's not just the Springfield Mafia. So I've obviously also Primo is meant to be an associate of the Mafia, so he should go in there anyway. But obviously all the normal Mafia members, but then I've obviously thrown Dante Senior and Dante Jr. and Primo, whatever he's called. News personalities, Angle Watkins, Arnie Pye, Birch Barlow, and Dave Sutton. So anyone who works for the news or is a news presenter of some description. Birch Barlow, I know, is kind of a radio host, and he's like this conservative news host, but I don't know, I think you could argue that it's still news in some regards. I don't know. I think it makes sense for him to be thrown in there. And then we've got musicians. So this is actually turned out to be quite a big category, considering I've kind of shortened down a lot of the other categories. So, yeah, musicians. Alaska, Nebraska, Mozart, I forget this girl's name, Leon Lewalski, what's it? Lillian, Alcatraz, JG and Gusius, Rachel Jordan, Stocky, Weird Al Yankovic, Tabitha Vicks, and Brendan, or whatever it's called. Yeah, so anyone who is, I guess, a musician as a profession, the only one I think is a little loose is Leon, because he technically isn't a professional musician. But I don't know, I think it makes sense to chuck him in there. And this thing obviously includes a few child characters. Now, they could split this one even more into genres of music, but I just don't think there's enough there to really do it. And also, it's really arbitrary, because, like, how are you, like, what are you going to say that, like, Lolene is? Because she's technically country. So, I wouldn't know where to put her, if you know what I mean. And then we have, like, pianists and, like, jazz. He's a jazz pianist. And, yeah, I just think it makes more sense just to throw them in a kind of broad umbrella term of musicians. So yeah, they all fall in there. And then Sunglazers, obviously that's their band, so it makes sense to chuck them in their own category here. Be very specific, be more specific, so they go in their own category. Performers, so it's a loose term, but I essentially mean anyone who performs some sort of, I guess, some sort of like art of some description. Although I have performing arts, it's a separate thing. So something that isn't dancing, any sort of performing art that isn't dancing. So theatre, obviously we got Llewellyn for theatre, Gabbo and Arthur for ventriloquy. Magicians, we've got this dude, I forget his name, and Craig Damon. And then we've got the Circus Acrobat and the Great Raimondo. So yeah, they're into performers. A bit of a loose one, I guess, but I don't know, I think it makes sense. And then we have performing artists, so obviously Axel Chilter, the Princess Woman, Chaz Busby, Tiago, what's her name, Valentine, and also I've thrown the donut model. This one was so hard to fit, I didn't know where to fit the donut model, and you'll understand why, to what I've done with the Halloween categories. It was kind of an anomaly. So I threw her in the performing artist because she kind of like is a stripper in some regards, in like Homer's vision. And she's technically not a Halloween character. She appeared in like one of Homer's visions. It's like a hallucination. So I don't know. I think it makes sense to throw her in there. I don't see an issue with it. Boardwalk performance, it's pretty much the same. I couldn't be bothered, so I just took a screenshot. Well, I took the screenshot from the wiki. But I think they should add what's his name? This little Krusty lookalike. Itchy and Scratchy Land. So same sort of category, but I've added the robots. Apart from that, it's exactly the same. Obviously, I've taken the costume out for a Squeaky Voice Teen. Sport lovers. So this one is it's kind of broad because it's people who own businesses, sport businesses, people who own, who are like a manager, and people who do it as a hobby, and then people who do it as a professional capacity. So I guess it is quite broad. But I think it kind of falls into profession, falls into hobby. It's kind of a mix. And I don't know, I think it works. It splits up the celebrities and the business owners category up a little bit, which I think is good. So obviously Dredrick Tatum, the book dude, I forget his name now, Pyro, Lucius Sweets, the wrestler guy, Jock, Lance Murdoch, Lugash, and the hunter dude, I forget his name, Connor, I think, something Connor. Yeah, so those can throw into sport lovers. It's arguable if bowling and hunting is a sport, but I don't know. I think you could kind of make it work. Actors. So this is for anyone who's an actor of some capacity. So Bubarella, Bumblebee Man, the voice of Itchy and Scratchy, I forget her name, June, is it? And also the Old West dude. Celebrities, you've got Declan Desmond, Opal, Miss Springfield, CJ Probidder, and the Detonator. Detonator is a kind of YouTube star, I guess, so it makes sense that you throw it in here. And as you'll notice, I have taken away the whole B-list, C-list celebrity thing. That's all gone. I originally had it all there, and then as I just started to dwindle them, like, there was barely anyone per category, so I thought, hell, let's just lump them into one category, celebrities. Also, I don't understand how they pick them. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, because, like, I think Bubarella's a B-list celebrity, but I don't understand why, because it's not exactly like she's really well known. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it makes more sense if celebrity is just one broad thing, and I've narrowed it down to the point where I'm pretty sure the only two celebrities that are actually in the celebrities categories is Declan and Miss Springfield. So, yeah, I think it makes sense that this would be the new celebrities. Category, and I got rid of the whole B and C list things. I know a lot of people like them, but I don't know. I just think it narrows it down a lot more. Help role guest stars, I've completely changed this as well. I don't understand why. I really thought about this. Why the hell is Crazy Cat Lady and Cherry Bobbins in the help role guest stars? It's not even like they're voiced by guest stars. They're not even voiced by guest stars. So I think guest stars should be just reserved for characters who don't fit into any other category and who are real life people. So, for example, Matt Groening and Stephen Hawking. Weird Al Yankovic could go in here as well, and it'd be fine if he went in here instead of musicians, but he is a musician, and he appears as a musician in the show and both in the game, so I think it makes more sense that he goes in the musicians, although I wouldn't be against him going in this category either, that'd be fine. Filthy Rich. So this one, I guess, some people may disagree with because I've actually taken kind of a trait over their profession, but I'll argue that their profession is really kind of mute in the sense that some of them don't do much. Like Aristotle, let's be honest, he doesn't do much. Like Mr. Burns doesn't do much for his business. He just kind of appears to run it. Arthur Fortune's the same thing. Artie Ziff, in some regards, is really only known for that. Rich Texan, barely we ever see him with a business, and Paris, his daughter anyway. Yeah, same sort of thing. And the Cayman Island bankers as well. I mean, he's down as a business owner, but he's a banker. Like, we don't know if he owns the bank. And Mr. Costington, I guess you could throw in business owners too, but I don't know. He seems like a really rich dude. I think I probably would change Mr. Costington, but yeah, apart from that, yeah, I think Filthy Rich, it's my kind of one exception to the formula I made. I just think this makes a better category. I quite like this actually as a category. I think it makes sense. Yeah, I think I would change Mr. Costington actually. I'd probably put him in business owners instead. But yeah, apart from that, I'm in agreement with my original decision. And presidential type. So this is my replacement for the 4th of July thing. So instead of doing a 4th of July, I think they should just do presidential types. It could just be presidents, but then we've got Aaron Burr, and I don't know what the hell we're going to do with Aaron Burr, so I just called it presidential types. I guess you could still call it presidents and get away. I mean, he's a vice president, still type of president, so you get away with it, but I don't know, I was a bit pedantic with it. So obviously Aaron Burr, Lincoln, Eisenhower, Roosevelt, Reagan, Nixon, and Washington. Yeah. Then we come into founders. So this is a category I wanted to split up because I'm not sure if they could add another person. The only one I could think is like founding fathers. If they were to add one of the founding fathers who wasn't a president, I think Benjamin Franklin wasn't a president, was he? So I think they could add him as a founder, I guess. But yeah, that's the only reason. I just couldn't think of any way to split them up because the issue was I was gonna put Jebediah Springfield as the secret villains, because obviously in the episode, his like kind of episode, he appears to actually be a pirate who, became the founder of Springfield or whatever. And same, he could be thrown in the swashbucklers because he's a pirate. But I kind of settled on the fact that he should probably just be a founder, because I don't know what to do with Shelbyville and Manhattan then. The only other thing I can think of is make a Shelbyvillers category for the future of them, obviously adding other Shelbyville members, which they could do. So if they were to add any more Shelbyville members, I think they should make a Shelbyville category and add Manhattan, and then throw Jebediah Springfield in the secret villains, because that technically is what he was. Although I guess maybe his profession is as a founder, I'm not sure. It's kind of it's not really a profession. It's more just a thing you've done, an achievement. So I didn't really know where that falls. Holy encounters. So this is anyone who does holy deeds in some regard. So Brother Faith, Father Sean, the Pope, the Parson, the Patriarch, and Aslan. They're my holy encounters. Obviously, they're all kind of Christians, but I guess this kind of leaves the possibility of like rabbis being added to this category as well. So I've not been so too vague. Also, obviously, Aslan's more of a kind of like a missionary, whereas these all are kind of vicars or priests in some regard, or the Pope itself. So yeah, holy encounters is just a broader term. Criminals, so anyone who is a known criminal. So obviously Ruth Powers this is where I think she should be. I don't understand why she's in the power plant, because there's no reference. I don't think there's been an episode where she's appeared in the power plant. The wiki doesn't list her as a member of the power plant. I can't find an episode where she's a member of the power plant. Maybe there was a throwaway line somewhere that I've missed, but I don't think that justifies her being in the power plant category. It doesn't make sense in my opinion. I think it makes more sense that she's in the criminal category, because that's what we know her as. She's a criminal. We've also got Herman. Although yes, he's a business owner, I think all of his shady dealings, I think his primary profession is a criminal. Malloy is also there. Lucille, we got, is it Fernando? Is it Jack the Ripper, Ramrod, and Meat Hook, the Yakuza boss, and then finally just the criminal, as he's known, or the thief, or whatever he's known as. Yeah. I think that's a fine category. Mascots, this is where Duffman should be, really. I know, yes, he's a celebrity, but his primary profession is being a mascot for Duff Beer. So he should go there. Also the Capital City Goofball, Chippy, Cletus, the Cocoa Bean, Fatov, Mr. Sparkle, the Lard Lad guy, Springy, Mexican Duffman, and Oscar C. I think this one is the only one. It's a bit loose, but I don't know. I think it's fine that he goes in there. He's a mascot of sorts. And then Krustyland Mascots. I actually originally put them in here in the mascots category, but I think it makes sense to separate them. They're a threesome, so it makes sense that they go in there. Survivalists. So these are people who, survival is their main game, I guess. So yeah, the prepper dude, I forget his name now, Lloyd, is it? And then obviously the NPCs that we got, the Ice Bishop, the Mountain Man, and the Barbarian, which is where I think the Barbarian should go. I was actually trying to think where the Barbarian should... That took me a while to figure out, but I think Survivalists, it makes sense that he goes in there. So yeah. Environmental lovers, so Jesse Grass and the Hippie. A little bit of a loose one. I definitely think there's got to be more characters they could add to this, so I think this one makes sense. Animal lovers, this is honestly my loosest one. These three characters, I had no clue where to put. I could have just chucked them in oddballs and that would have been fine, but I was trying my best not to. I wanted to leave the oddballs to like the kind of the last possible option sort of thing. So yeah, Animal Lovers, it's loose. This is probably the one I disagree with the most, or I'm not so happy with. But again, it was just the best I could do. So yeah, unfortunately. But any suggestions to where else these three characters could go, please do tell me. So Katenge, Yo-Yo, and Hugs Bunny. Secret Agents, so we've also got the James Bond parodies, and Wayne Slater. Also we got the communist kid, is he Russian? Whoever he is. The communist kid, as I'm going to call him. And then we got Secret Villains. This is where Hank Scorpio, I think, should go. In some regards, that is his profession. I guess he could go in criminals as well. But anyway, Hank Scorpio, Femme Fatale. Is a Ghost Enforcer, the assassin, grinder assassin. And then I've also thrown these three. So obviously, I think Russ Cargill is actually already in the Secret Villains. But I've thrown Joan Bushwell and the historian dude, because in the episodes that they're in, they appear to be good at first, and then they are shown to be villains. So I think in some regards they fall into the secret villains category. Also, I guess Joan could go into Filthy Rich, and her I mean, he could just go in oldies, like he already is in oldies. But I don't know. I think it's fine. I think it makes more sense to go in secret villains. I don't know. Babies, there's definitely is more babies they can add, so I think they should make a separate category for Kearney's other son and the baby Gerald. There is definitely other babies they can add in the game. I'm sure of it. Actually, I'm not actually sure of it, but I don't know. Maybe there isn't. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's got to be, surely. Kids, so this is separate to the elementary school. These are kids that didn't appear in the elementary. Samantha Stanky, I think, does at one point, but then she ends up going to the Wicked School of Girls, so I was a bit, I didn't know what to do with her, but I saw her in here in the end. But anyway, we have Amber Dempsey, is that her name? Abort, Patches and Poor Violet, Gina, Luke Stetson, Peter and Peter, Brazilian Kid, and T-Rex. And then teenagers, so I made a separate category for teenagers as well. I think this makes sense, honestly. I mean, we have kids and oldies, so why not do a teenagers one? Plus, it means that we can throw a bunch of characters that are really loose. And in some regards, they could throw the bullies in this category as well if they wanted to. I don't know. I like the idea of having a separate category for the bullies, so I did that. Again, that was another exception to my rule. I made a few exceptions to my rules here and there just because I think they made better categories, but teenagers, squeaky voice teen, Laura Powell. The Powells I don't think are strong enough to make a family category, although I wouldn't be against it if it was just the two of them. It'd be fine. Ruth Powers and Laura Powers. Is it Powers? I think it's Powers. Squeaky voice teen. Shauna, of course, Patrice, and the Wiccans. So they're all teenagers, so it makes sense they go in their own teenagers category. And then we've got oldies, Alice Glick, Jasper, Old Jewish Man, Philip Heflin, forget his name, Edwina, Gummy Joe, Rita, Raoul, Principal Dolinger. He goes in the schoolworkers category, but I mean I think the schoolworkers category should be just for elementary school workers. If that makes sense. I guess he could go in there, but in the actual Simpsons, he's retired, so I don't know. I just thought it made more sense he goes in the oldies. If they add enough characters from the high school, they could do a Springfield High School category. I don't know, just my opinion. And then Wheels McGarth. Barfly, so this is falling into obviously hobbies now, not age groups, so this is kind of half, obviously it's the same as it already is. Bullies, although these three could definitely go in teenagers, I made a separate bullies category. So Jimbo, Dolphin, Kearney, obviously. And we got the bully boss. And I also threw Don Brodka because I had no clue where to put Don Brodka. He was another character where I honestly had absolutely nowhere to put him. They could make a guards category, but it's just so dumb. I don't know. So I threw him in bullies because he kind of is a bully to Bart in the episode. So I don't know. I think that makes sort of sense. Oddballs, so this is the category I hate because I hate how overfilled it is, but these are just the characters I didn't know where else to put. So Crazy Cat Lady, I could have put her in the oldies, but I generally don't know what age she is. The show is not very consistent on it. Same with Mole Man. There's things to suggest that Mole Man is very, very old, and some things to suggest that he's 35. So I don't know where to put Mole Man. He could go in oldies, but I just think we don't know where he is. Also, I've broken up the Squeaky Voice Teen and Mole Man category because what the hell was that? I hate that category. So yeah, he goes in oddballs. I don't know. I think it's fine him being there. The Guest Man, similar thing. He could go in business busybodies, I guess, but he's not really a busybody as such. He's more just weird. So I think oddballs kind of makes sense. Sherry Bobbins, in some regards, she's odd. Like not in a kind of like, oh, she's weird, in a what the hell, why is she flying on an umbrella kind of way. Sebastian Cobb, I just didn't know where to put him either, so he went in there. Manichek, same thing. Roy, same thing. I was tempted to put Roy in university, but I generally don't know if he is at university, so I think it would have been too much of a shot in the dark. And then finally, Knifey Spoony. He goes in there as well. Also, I got rid of the foreigners category. That was another category I got rid of. I just think it's not... It's too broad. I'd rather they just be more specific with them. So yeah. Then we have Springfield Pride, Grady and the Tunicorn. There is more characters they can add in here, I think, but actually, is there more characters they can add in here? This is the thing, I didn't know where to put Grady, and the Tunicorn could have just gone in animals, but so they could split this up, and I guess this is the only technically update category I have in some regards, but I mean, when I say Springfield Pride, I mean in gay characters. So there is more gay characters out there that they could add. Although I'm thinking of them like John, for example. They could just add John in the business owners because he owns his little shop. So maybe there isn't, but I don't know. Who knows? I think this probably is another character they could definitely add. Stonecutters. Finally, we managed to keep this category because we got number 1 and number 51, and I think it's 51, and the Egg Council guy, who is a stonecutter, who everyone forgets is a stonecutter, but the Egg Council guy can go in there, so yeah. And then we have animals. So this is a little vague, I guess, in some regards. This is kind of, I guess, a trait in some ways. I know there's an exotic animals, but the way I've kind of split them up at this point, it just makes more sense to throw them in animals. So I've also got the Space Coyote, Invasion Toads, the Bear, Loch Ness Monster, who is technically a canon episode, so the Loch Ness Monster exists, I guess. The Turkey, and the Vicious Monkeys. Birds, there definitely is more birds they can add, so I've thrown in obviously Squawky and Freedom. Snakes, Lumpy, the whacking snakes and the western snake. Prehistoric Pests, so anything that's kind of prehistoric. So Baby T-Rex, the Caveman Mo, the Homer thing. This could go in a Homer Doppelgangers, but it makes more sense to go in Prehistoric Pests. The Darwin fish and the 2 dinosaurs, the Loposaurus and the Raptor. Swashbucklers, so any kind of pirates. So obviously you've got Blackbeard, the Sexy Pirate, the Plague Rats, and the Wisecracking Parrot. The Wild West, or Wild Westers, I guess they could call it. So we've got the Prospector, the Brute, and the Tumbleweed. Tourists and sightseers, so I kind of made this, it's a little vague, but anyone who's kind of a sightseer or a tourist in some regards. So obviously we've got the tourists, who aren't actually in the character collection at the minute, yet they're characters in the game, so I think they should be thrown in the character collection. I mean, what's the point of them not being there? It doesn't make any sense. I know that the wiki lists them as special characters, but it's just weird to me, because it's meant to be a character collection. So yeah, the tourists get thrown in there. Obviously you've got the zoo tourists, I guess. You got the Krustyland, the Itchy and Scratchyland people too. So yeah. Concert attendees. So here we've got obviously, the concert attendees: the hipster, the millennial, and the groupie. Leprechauns. So yeah, the Northern Irish, the Irish leprechaun, and the Yuprechaun. There definitely is more they can add to that as well. Robots. This is quite a big category actually. We got the Caesar robot, this robot, the Spotlight Dancer robot, Chum, the 2 drones. One of the drones, the IRS drone, is actually in Pets, Animals and Pets, which makes absolutely no sense. The Grief Counselor, Hans Mechman, the Ladybot, Rosa, this one I forget his name, and the Street Cleaner is another character who's not in the character collection. Funzos, there is more Funzos they can add as well. They can add the kind of the Funzo without the skin, the robot, the kind of the naked Funzo, I guess you could call it. So yeah, Santa's Workshop. So anyone who kind of works in Claus Co. So obviously Santa, Mrs. Claus, the worker elves, and the Snow Monster. Festive Performers, got Candy Kevin, the Dancing Reindeer, and the Grumple. Obviously they could add the Grumple's wife. They could add, I think there was a few more performers in that one kind of segment where we had all the Christmas performers, so I think it makes sense. Festive Pets, so we've got the Robot Santa, the Bone Storm Santa, the Raccoon, King Winter, I forget these guys' names, but yeah, these 2 as well. The BS League, so the Belief System League. This isn't actually based in the show. I thought this might have been based in something in the show, but I was thinking of the Super Friends Club from South Park. But I honestly thought this was based in the show, but I don't think it is. I think this is just really it's just kind of vague. So I've taken a few characters out, put a few characters in. So I've got God, obviously Buddha, Angel Lisa, who I think could make sense going in here. I mean, angels are a belief in some regards. Is it Shiva or is it Vishnu? Is this Shiva or Vishnu? I forget. but the Hindu god anyway. The Mayan god, who I think makes sense to be added in here as well. Jack Frost and Jesus Christ. Then we got superheroes: Radioactive Man, Fallout Boy, Everyman, the Wind Lad and Solar Boy, Hot Flash, and Senor Ding Dong. Senor Ding Dong is a bit of an odd one because he's the only one who isn't fictional. But I don't know. I think it's fine. I think he could be thrown in there. Super villains. I know there is a separate one for the kind of fossil fuel people, the Fossil Fuel 4 or whatever they're called. But I've just thrown them in their own category because otherwise, I think if we get more villains, then I think they could make 2 separate categories. But if we were to take these 4 out, it would leave these 4. I don't know. I think it's fine them just being in one big one. So obviously got Dr. Crab. Damn, I forget this guy's name. The King Cole, Choco Paquette, Fracka, Collider, the Rex, and the Scoutmaster. Itchy and Scratchy show. Of course, I've taken out June from this. I think it makes more sense to be just the fictional characters in the Itchy and Scratchy show. So obviously got Itchy, Scratchy, Poochie, Disapproving Squirrel, and Miss Mouse and Mrs. Scratchy. Video game characters, so any characters who appear in video games within The Simpsons. So you got Dash Dingo, the golfer dude Lee, whatever it is. I guess if he appeared in the show outside of the video game, I would have put him in the sport thing. But the thing is, he only appears as a video game character, so I think it makes more sense for him to go in here. Because I'm not sure it's not clear if he's fictional or real. Real within the show. I mean, Mr. Dirt, of course, who's from the Simpsons game. And then we've got the Stick-em-up Walrus. We've got Springwart's School of Magicry. So, Lord Montemort, Slivers, and the Frog Prince. And then we've got the Angelica Button world. So, Angelica Button, Greystash, Malicious Crub, the Unicorn Wizard, and a Blocko Angelica Button. Halloween baddies. So, we're going into Halloween now. So we got Death, Dr. Griffin, we got the Evil Shopkeeper, King Snorky, the Monkey Paw Dealer, Voodoo Queen, the Krusty Doll, and the Space Marshmallow. Tree-like Sentiols, there is another one they could add. In the Xylem episode, there was another tree-like Sentiol, so they definitely could add another person to this category. But we've got Tree Stash and the Xylem. Witches, again, there's definitely more they could add to this category too. So we've got Susanna and just Witch. Monsters, kind of a little bit vague. This was actually originally quite big, and then I managed to cut them down a lot. So we got Blinky Monster. We got this thing, I forget what it's called, and then we got these NPCs that we got. And then we got public domain monsters. As I said, this used to be bigger, so this is why I should have put them out better. But public domain monsters. So this is any monsters that are within the public domain. But originally I had like Frankenstein and the mummies and all that, and the werewolves in there. But then I thought it'd be best if we just split them up. So for now, it's just going to be Frankenstein, Monster, Julius Dean, Cthulhu, and Munster. But there is more they can add. There's loads of public domain monsters out there that, I mean, I'm not sure if they've all appeared in the show, but who knows. And then we've got vampires, Count Dracula, Countess Dracula, Nosferatu, and the little vampire thing there. Werewolves, werewolf, she-wolf, and the that other werewolf. Mummies and Egyptian pests. So obviously got the two mummies, the woman hat, and the other one, and we got the I forget what it was called, but these two mummy things, and the Pharaoh God as well. Ghosts. I probably should have said I took Mod Flanders' ghost out of the Flanders family because I think they should add Maud Flanders as an actual character, and as such, I think it would make sense that she goes into ghosts. So yeah, we get Maud's because in a sense she's a different character as a ghost. She's more like in the episodes where she's appeared as a ghost, she's much more evil, and she's not the kind-hearted woman she was when she was alive. So I think in some regards she's a separate character. We've got Oscar Wilde, the other dude, I forget who it was again. Maud Flanders and the Ghost of Christmas Past. Rogilians, so we've got Kankodos, Kamala, J. Rogilian Christ, and the Lucifer Satan. This is actually just called Aliens. I just think it should be more specific and be Rogilians. Zombies, so all the zombies, of course, I've taken the dancing zombie and put them in there as well. Dragons. There is more dragons they can add for sure as well, so I think it makes sense to make a separate category for them. Obviously got, yeah, they're the dragons. Oh no, we got trolls. So I've added obviously the trolls that we got. Barfy, Crawley, and I forget what the other one's called. But I threw the bridge troll Mo in there as well because he's a troll. Mutants. Yeah, so Bob clones. I think they could make a separate Bob clones category. Originally I had that, but I don't know. I threw them in here. But we got Big Claw, the rabbit, Hugo, the mutant peacock, mutant rabbit, these two mutant things, the plant, the tomato, and the seed thing, and the mutant alien. Spooky doppelgangers. So this is a bit of a weird one, and I could understand if someone might not be too great with this, because in some ways you could throw these in monsters, but all of these would just be thrown in monsters if I didn't have them, or they could be thrown in Halloween baddies. So I made a separate category for them. So obviously you got the goblins in there, the Burns frog, the Mo devil, the Kernymon, the Wigups, and the raven. I don't know. I think this would be fine as a kind of funny little category. But I know that obviously I've got like dragons and things like that. Obviously the dragons in there and the trolls. So I guess it would kind of fall into where are we going to be consistent kind of thing. So I don't know. This could be reworked a little bit, but that's what I got for now. And then finally, my final category is Homer doppelgangers. This will be the last one on the scroll wheel. And I think they should be ordered in like family profession, unless like it makes more sense to, you know, like where I've kind of demonstrated, where it makes more sense to kind of swap a few around. But I think Homer doppelgangers could be the kind of like the last category of the character collection. I think they'd be fine. It's kind of a funny little category. So we obviously got Guy Incognito, Evil Homer here, the Homer dog, Paul Bunyan, and the Blob Homer. So yeah, that is all the categories. So that is just my opinion to how to fix the categories, because I hate the character categories at the minute, the character collections. They are really annoying. I think they should separate. A big thing is really just separating costumes and characters, because there is a big issue where they've got a bunch of costumes in the character collections, but then they have costumes that aren't in the character collections at all. And they also have characters who aren't even in the character collections. So, I don't know, I think it just makes a lot of sense for them to fix it up. It would show that they care a lot more, and they used to care. They used to care about this quite a bit, although they've always had stupid categories like the Squeaky Voice Teen and Mole Man, which that is the epitome of that just tells you the state of the categories in Tapped Out. But yeah, that's my way of fixing the character categories. This was a long ass video, and I've spoken a lot. So yeah, tell me your thoughts. Is there anything you disagree with? Any kind of different things you would do? Please do tell me. And yeah, I shall see you next video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.